I'm not sure who the other ones that won tonight that were incumbents, but I liked Russ Feingold. I liked him so much that I've actually said many times over the last 12 years that I would actually enjoy, if there was going to ever be a Jewish president, that he would be the first one. Because it had to be somebody, right?
Why?
I thought he's a really... I don't know what the word is. Let me just tell you the things he's done. He's not a partisan Democrat ideologue. He doesn't get on my nerves. He actually is the opposite. I'm going to tell you his history. Okay? And like, you come up with the judgments, you know? I first heard about him in 1998. At the end of 1998, and the Republican Congress had just impeached Clinton. And they were sending this now, the indictment, to the Senate chamber. Okay, which was like 50-50 at the time. And between the Republicans and the Democrats. But that wasn't the thing. You need 67. He was never going to get convicted. And it went there, and all the Senate Democrats were like, nah, I don't see anything here worth, tying up the Senate with. There's no evidence here of anything. And they were just, like, reprehensible, right? Because he was indicted, he was impeached on 4 things, right? Or 2 things, or 4 things, I don't remember what it was.
Yeah, 2 things.
It was 4 things in the committee, and they voted...
Yeah, 2 things
that the general...
Passed,
yeah, 4 passed the... There were like 8 that were brought up, 4 were passed... It was like... 4 were in the committee that came out, and 2 the general thing. And they said, no, you didn't do any of these things. What are you, crazy? You've got this thing that he signed it, right, under oath, and he lied, and you're saying you don't see any evidence? Why don't you look? And, like, everybody was running except for one guy, and that was Russ Feingold. And he said, whoa, I'm not saying the guy's guilty, but there's certainly enough evidence here for us to have a trial. He was the only member of the Senate, of the Democratic side of the Senate. Okay? Yeah. He was the only one who said, I see enough evidence here that warrants a trial. We need to have a trial. I need to see the evidence brought forward. And then they brought the trial, right? And as it turned out, then they had the vote, and he voted that the guy was innocent, right?
Yeah.
Russ Feingold voted the guy was innocent, but so did all the other Democrats. But the thing that impressed me was that he even said, I see enough evidence here that warrants a trial, right? Which means if he was in the House, he would have voted for an impeachment. So he basically was on the same level as the House Republicans. And I really respected that. This guy was honest. He was putting politics aside second. He was like, honest, I see evidence here. I say the Republicans there had it right. They saw evidence, they moved on it. The Democrats were like playing party, like, oh, I don't see any evidence, I don't see any evidence, and it made me sick. Okay, but Russ Feingold had a backbone. He said no. He was an emastika yid. He said, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then circle up in 2000. What was the big issue going in the 2000 election? Do you remember? There were 2. There was Social Security and...
I remember.
The Feingold, McCain-Feingold...
Oh, campaign finance reform.
Yeah, because he crossed party lines. He shook hands with McCain, who was Republican, right? And they worked out a campaign finance to try to stop it. And everybody on both sides, on both parties, hated this thing because they were going against the establishment, and they were trying to clean up Washington, and nobody wanted that. But I respected that he didn't care what his party was telling him. He wanted to do what was right for America. I really like that. Then, circle forward, Bush had a whole bunch of people that he appointed, and the Democrats it was a split 50-50 in the Senate. So they split each, what do you call it?
Yeah,
the committees.
Yeah.
So it was like half and half.
Mm-hmm.
All the committees were like half Republican, half Democrat. And it was very hard for Bush. He would need a majority to get anybody appointed, not only in the entire Senate, but to get them out of the committee. And Russ Feingold was in that committee. And he let through every single one of Bush's guys, even though every Democrat was in opposition. And they hated him for that. They're going, what are you doing? And he's going, how can you say that this guy's not qualified? Give me some evidence that this guy's not qualified. I was like, oh my God, it's an honest guy in Washington. He's like, I don't care about party politics. What did this guy do? And it came to Ashcroft, who was the most controversial. And the Democrats didn't want this guy because he was anti-abortion, right? And in the committee, they put up a whole thing, no, we'll never vote for this guy. And he was like, I don't see anything that Ashcroft did that didn't deserve him to be appointed. He was in. Then they went to the House, to the Senate floor, and again, it was like 50-50, you know? And he goes, I don't have, yeah, it's an honor to be the 51st vote. And he put Ashcroft in. And everybody hated him. And this is who he was while he was in the Senate. He was somebody who Republicans could work with. This guy was a respectable guy. He did the honest thing. He had his own ideas of what were right and what were wrong. And his last famous thing that he did, are you bored yet?
No, I'm listening.
When Bush was running for re-election in 2004, he scolded Kerry and Edwards. And he this is what he said. He said, they voted for the war, and then they voted against funding the troops.
Yeah.
He goes, it's one thing to be wrong on something, it's another to be wrong on both things. He goes, the right thing to do is to vote against the war.
Yeah.
If you oppose the war, vote against it. Once the war has started, you've got to support the troops. Right? So they voted on the wrong end of both. And he could say that because that's exactly what he did. He voted against the war. He said, I'm a true anti-war guy. I voted against it. Once I lost, I've supported the troops. I'm an American. These two nutcakes, Kerry and Edwards, wish-washed because they want to do whatever they thought was more popular.
Yeah.
And he scolded them for that.
Those are some good points, yeah.
Yeah, and then finally, it was like in 2007. It was the State of the Union, 2007. It was the shining moment. Because in 2006, the Democrats had really sent a message to Bush that America sent a message that they weren't happy with Iraq, and they voted in all these Democrats to take over the Congress. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
In 2007, the State of the Union, you had a very weakened Bush.
Right.
And he went up there for like his first public thing and he made his speech, and he stepped down, and they filmed him as he was coming off the stage, and he walked through the chamber of the Capitol building, and he came out and he shook hands with all these people and everything. And the very last guy he shook out was in the hallway. He shook hands with Russ Feingold, who was waiting for him. And I watched President Bush's mouth, and what do you think he said? He said, Russ, how did I do tonight? You have to ask Russ Feingold. Like, it's important. Like, the rest of the people doesn't matter.
Right.
His opinion matters.
Right.
This Jew, it matters to Bush.
Right.
How did I do tonight? And based on that, and that was like the last thing I remember. That was like his last shining moment for Russ. I said, I have no problem. If Russ Feingold runs for president, I would vote for him. Because even though that he seems like a liberal and everything, he's the kind of guy who's going to work. He's the opposite of Obama.
Yeah.
Obama's not going to work with you.
Yeah.
You know, Republicans get in the back of the bus.
Yeah.
You know, you're locked out of the room. We're not going to talk to you. Russ Feingold wouldn't do that. Russ Feingold would invite everybody in. Let's work this out.
Yeah.
You know, and at the end we'll take a vote. You know what I mean? He's a workable guy. He's the kind of guy I want in Washington. I think it's unfortunate that he was chosen tonight as one of the guys to bounce out. I really do. That's not the target. The target is somebody like a Schumer, who's a prick, or a boxer who's God. There's no words to describe that woman. You know, I told you about this boxer, what a hypocrite she is? Did I tell you? Okay. Boxer's a huge, giant hypocrite. She came out and she's like anti-guns, right? Mm-hmm. And she voted for the ban on the ARs, the assault rifles, and she's like been really. She's like one of NRA's. They grade everybody. Mm-hmm. She gets like a fail. Did you know that she has a CCW?
What's that?
A carry concealed weapon permit.
Oh, interesting.
Isn't that interesting? So basically, there's two sets of rules, right?
Right.
The little people should not have guns.
Right.
But big people in the Senate should have guns.
Right.
So I'm going to vote and say I'm going to take away your guns. At the same time, I have a CCW. I have one in my pocket because I got to be strapped.